Hey guys, Omni here. As later tonight, we are going to be diving into the final episode, the season finale of season 1 of Loki, finally figuring out who is behind the TVA, who is the big bad, and all that jazz later tonight. We've been reacting to every episode up to this point, so if you're new to the channel, I hope you stick around. I hope you like this and subscribe so that we can follow along through this epic conclusion to this first initial banger of a season. Honestly, like it went from being one of the shows that I was not that interested in to being probably my favorite of the MCU shows that we've gotten so far. It's been a lot of fun, and the speculations, the Easter eggs, the attention to detail throughout this, the just the fun that they're having making this show is definitely translating to our viewership. So it's been a lot of fun following along. So in tradition, going into this one, since there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of potential culprits at being the ones behind the TVA, we're going to watch Eric Voss's breakdown over on New Rockstars for the top 8 suspects full investigation going into episode 6. So guys, let's go ahead and see what Eric has to say. I just bought a bunch of their Loki merch too.
Head to the Loki finale. Who the hell is in that castle at the end of time? Who created the TVA and its timekeeper robots? And are
If you're not already subscribed to these guys, I highly recommend them.
Well, I wanted to make my
Please,
best arguments
please
for
do
and
not Ralph
against
Boner
all
us.
top 8 suspects. So
Top
that hopefully we can all go into this
8.
finale more open-minded for the possibilities, rather than clinging to one
I've got like
expectation
3
that some might base
possible
their enjoyment
ones.
of this whole show on the validity of. Look,
4.
folks, Kang and Mephisto might
That's
heat
it.
up a party, but you don't need them for an enjoyable night of tabletop gaming. I think I know what that means. Let's start with suspect number 1, Kang the Conqueror, aka Immortus, aka Nathaniel Richards, aka the Pharaoh Rama Tut. How many of these are there? Aka Mr. Gryphon, head of King Enterprises, the company that overtakes Stark Tower in the comics, and the latest Loki Easter egg pointing in the direction of Kang. Now, many skeptical viewers are comparing Kang to Mephisto in WandaVision, just another goofy big bad from the comics that nerds are making mountains out of Easter egg molehills to justify. I mean, that could be the case. But the truth is there are far more clues pointing to Kang's arrival than we ever had for Mephisto. With Mephisto, our evidence was cryptic mentions of devils and demon spawns, satanic imagery, and parallels to a comic storyline in which Mephisto was the villain behind it all. But by episode 7 of the show, the series revealed it was Agatha all along. But with Loki, very different situation. Headed into the finale, we do not have an Agatha all along yet. There's still some man behind the curtain. And unlike Mephisto, Kang the Conqueror has been confirmed and cast in the MCU. And spoiler warning for Black Widow, seriously, if you haven't seen it, skip the next 10 seconds or so. Marvel Studios just proved it's not afraid to introduce big names first on Disney Plus shows, with mystery woman Val appearing on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier before her cameo now in Black Widow. Also, of all the TVA judges in the comics they could have chosen, the writers picked Ravonna Renslayer, arguably best known as Kang's romantic interest. Similarly, Alioth. The writers could have made up a smoke monster or picked any number of lesser beasts from Marvel lore, and they chose the one best known for threatening Kang's temporal empire. The Void's possession of the pyramids and the Sphinx mirrors the historical trophies Kang keeps in his Chronopolis kingdom. The central timekeeper that the cinematography keeps focusing on looks like an android Kang could have made in his own image. Kang Prime in the comics does reside at the end of time, where this citadel is located, and Loki is a time travel series. Kang is Marvel's ultimate time travel villain. It just lines up. Now, if the Void is made up of things that the TVA pruned, and if Kang were running the TVA, why would they prune things from a Kang-dominated timeline? Well,
Exactly.
if the TVA is all Kang's machinery,
That's
the
why I
Void's
think it's
true
going to be a
purpose
Loki.
could be to collect things that Kang actually wants, and Alioth could be the snake in his garden that Kang needed Sylvie to slay. Or Kang could be a TVA prisoner kept in solitary confinement, and Alioth was keeping him there. Look, it might not be Kang.
That would be
Anyone
cool.
who says that it's definitely not Kang is either dismissing a very likely possibility for just being too obvious to them, kind of like what Mobius said,
It's always the game within the game with you guys, which I respect.
or people are just afraid of looking wrong after Mephisto. To which I say, if you like this stuff this much, being right isn't gonna make you cool, so just be the greater fool and own it. And that brings us to suspect 2, King Loki. Trailer footage.
This is where
shots still
my-
yet to be shown on the series
I'm putting
show
my
a
eggs.
smug Loki on the throne of Asgard, and another shot shows Loki back in Stark Tower redoing the events of the Battle of New York.
Glorious.
We know the TVA targets Lokis in particular, and since this show is about Loki variants, it would make sense for the man behind the curtain to be some alpha Loki who created the TVA in order to erase all other variant competitors to his rule, and one who would represent the darkest parts of Loki's soul that our protagonist has been battling internally. Now, you could also say this might contradict the trajectory the series has been following, right? Like, each episode introduces us to increasingly diverse Loki variants, each with a different face, from a female to an old man to a kid to a reptile. So to pull back the final curtain just to reveal the face of Tom Hiddleston again? I mean, I don't know. Loki just did that in episode 5, opening the hatch to President Loki, and then shortly after, the show turned him into a kind of a joke. So it might seem like a step backward to reveal yet another Tom Hiddleston Loki, but evil this time, even though we spent 2.5 movies with that version of the character already. Folks, these trailer shots could just be visions of a hypothetical timeline in which Loki rules as king, illusions conjured by whoever is behind the curtain to try to tempt Loki. Now, just to cover our bases, we could look at suspect number 3, Mobius, with his perceived inconsistencies of not remembering leaving ring stains, not remembering an alligator Loki, as a sign that there could be some other Mobius variant, or Mobius could be a Loki variant. But it does seem like Owen Wilson was cast on this show to be a foil to Loki, not to be some maniacal, crazy big bad.
Yeah, I don't know about that
he's
one.
there to represent the aw shucks innocence of the TVA workforce, and of course to ride a jet ski. Really, for it to matter that some characters are Loki variants, a lot of the other characters must not be Loki variants. There's only so many times you can play that card. Similarly, suspect number 4, Renslayer, already has a role to play in uncovering this mystery. So to reveal a Renslayer variant behind the curtain might muddy the current Renslayer arc and set up a weird Renslayer versus Renslayer conflict. Is that how we want the show to end? Now, if you like what we do here at New Rockstars, one of the best ways you can support that content and help us do more is to grab some cool swag from newrockstarsmerch.com.
I already bought like 4 of their shirts.
Lineup of really cool gear, shirts, hats, hoodies.
Fortunately,
water bottles,
none
all
of them
kinds
will
stuff
be
to make
in
your
before
friends,
the
family,
finale.
coworkers, fellow Arby's diners jealous. We also have our limited edition Black Widow inspired latest obsession shirt, a kind of play on the classic hourglass logo. Super limited supply. We got another Black Widow shirt design you might like, as well as some Loki designs like the Gator Loki polo shirt.
That's one of the ones I got.
Tee that I'm wearing.
And that one.
Supply is limited, so you gotta act fast. We've already sold out of the XL in green and a bunch of the red sizes, but when you buy a latest obsession shirt, you unlock the ability to leave a shout out that will appear on screen during our weekly Inside Marvel episodes. And you can finally tell Grandma how much you care via a YouTube video. The Epic Hero Shop has a massive all-original Loki collection with other shirt designs, stickers, even a Miss Minutes wall clock. Check it out in all of cred. Now there is suspect number 5, Casey, not seen since episode 2, and some are saying the name Casey is a clue. K-C. Kang the Conqueror. I'm sorry, I'm gonna pass on that one. But suspect number
what the
6,
hell?
Miss Minutes is worth considering.
Yeah, I've been seeing this a lot.
Don't know what she is. Like, she can transcend both digital screens and real space, and she is close enough to the heart of the TVA to access confidential records and lie on behalf of it. And Tara Strong teased that there's so much more to be revealed, and that you don't really know who she is, where she's from, what her origin story is, how sentient she is. Miss Minutes could be the public face of whoever is controlling the TVA, and Sylvie's vision glided up to that lit tower and stopped at its golden glow, maybe connected to the color of Miss Minutes. And in this case, the one controlling the TVA might be no one. And it's all part of some self-perpetuating clockwork with mechanized puppet authorities. But what threw me was the way these android timekeepers laughed when Sylvie decapitated one of them. Pretty weird response. I read that as some maniacal puppet master who might have even wanted Loki and Sylvie to make this discovery. And that brings us to suspect number 7, Dr. Doom, whom some are connecting to the European-looking castle, the androids they say being similar to Doom bots, and the possibility that sorcery could have been used to enchant the TVA to block out the other forms of magic. But unlike Kang, Doom has not yet been cast or even confirmed for the MCU. He's coming someday, but probably not in the next few years. I think the people who are
I feel like that's just like too happy,
but in my
like too hopeful.
I brought up suspect number 8, classic Loki, suggesting that he might have faked his death.
And I've heard
Goliath,
this one.
similar to the way he confessed to faking his death with Thanos. I like this better than King Loki because it still checks those boxes of Loki facing an alpha variant of himself while letting Richard E. Grant continue to shine. Think about it, classic Loki is insanely powerful. He casts complex duplicates, creating teleportation portals, conjuring a full Asgard Emerald City illusion, and in his final seconds, as he was wiped away by Alioth, he let his green magic fade from his hands, and he was laughing in glee, and notice how his cape seemed to dematerialize before Alioth got to him. I'm definitely getting some vibes of Obi-Wan surrendering to Vader to become more powerful.
You never know.
Imagine. And classic Loki had that interesting response to Mobius earlier.
So just like that, you're turning on the very thing you devoted your life to.
It's never too late to change.
It's just hard to tell with him because Grant is so good an actor. He released that single tear as light and wind pounded his face, which could have been him accepting his fate or feeling a kind of excitement for a different long-awaited release. Now you may be asking, why would classic Loki slum it in the void if he was really running the TVA from that castle beyond? Well, if we're really going by the man behind the curtain logic, classic Loki's theatrical costume could be a duplicate illusion that the real old man was conjuring from that castle beyond. Maybe the only thing that can subdue Alioth is enchantment, the one form of sorcery that he does not appear to have, because unlike Loki L1130 and Sylvie, he never had a connection with another. He lived his whole life alone on a remote planet. That could be why he wanted Sylvie and Loki to come here, why the Timekeepers laughed, why Lokis have been targeted. I think whoever is the man behind the curtain, one safe bet is that they will refer to themselves as He Who Remains. That's the title of the elderly TVA agent at the end of time who engineers the Timekeepers. And I say that because really any of these suspects could be He Who Remains, or He Who Remains might just be a completely new face, or even just a note left by a guy named He Who Remains on a Miss Minutes wall clock connected to a bunch of cogs and levers, reading, "Out to lunch, see you in a minute." And based on all of the evidence, folks, it's just hard not to imagine that whoever it is, if it's not Kang, it must have been someone who created the TVA at the behest of or in response to Kang. Like, even if Kang is reduced to a post-credit cameo or no sighting at all, his fingerprints are all over the series, and we're not talking devils in the details. These are intentional clues. So if you are still in the Kang gang after all this, I will
Kang
be there
gang.
with you because Mephisto's getting lonely in my daily mentions. So where am I at? I guess I'll say classic Loki, He Who Remains, and a rivalry against Kang with Miss Minutes as his automated assistant. But I'm not betting the house on that. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss. Follow and subscribe to New Rockstars. This is my final Loki theory video before the finale, so I will see all of you on the other side. Thanks for watching. Bye.
All right, another good one. See, there were some people like I've never even considered Mobius, though some people had mentioned it. I think because we had that tease of there being another variant of him being Ravona's other favorite agent or whatever. But that could just be the part of the revelation that they're all variants. Like, he could have just never crossed paths with this other Mobius. Or it is him. It's just obviously he doesn't have that memory that other him does. And she's like, you always do this. But, like, he particularly, we've only seen him do it one or two times. So, like, it doesn't... There's some clues that make it not add up. And I think it might just be a Mobius variant. But I don't think it would put him at the end of time running everything. Miss Minutes, while there is more to how she's created, how she works, what she does, what she is, what I don't think she is the end all be all villain. I don't think you're gonna have like a Miss Minutes like thing at the end where it's like, ho, you're fighting a giant clock. But just an AI created at the behest and at the benefit of whoever is behind the scenes. Tara Strong also in an interview said that this character wasn't really meant to like be as prominent as they were. They were just initially, and the intention was just to be in episode 1. And they liked the character, they liked what she brought to it, and they just kind of expanded her role a little bit to have her pop back up here and there. So it kind of gives me this idea that if that was the case, like, I don't think they would have planned for her to be the big bad in the end. I just think she's a means to an end for whoever is behind the curtain. Kang, like he said in this, I will second, as something I've said in my previous videos as well, in the reactions and some of the other theory videos we've covered, is that, there are a lot of undeniable Kang references, like to the point where you don't have to even stretch. Like, there's no stretching at all, or reaching for making references to Kang for us, like there was with Mephisto. There are blatant, obvious things from the comics that are directly tied to him. We are going, unlike Mephisto, we already know that he is confirmed and cast to appear in a later Marvel movie. However, like was pointed out, it's kind of odd that a lot of a fair amount of references to Kang are in the void. So they've been pruned, they've been removed from time. So it doesn't feel like he would be behind the TVA, but maybe an adversary of the TVA that hasn't really come up in the radar or in the scheme of why Loki would need to know that this is something they've been combating. Maybe he's an ex-TVA agent. Maybe, who knows? Who knows what they go with it? But it doesn't give me the sense that Kang would be the one behind the curtain, behind the veil, behind the fog, behind Goliath. I don't know. I just don't quite see that all that much. Could it be Renslayer all along? Very likely. She is still very iffy on reading whether or not she's sincere when she says she doesn't know certain things. Like, even when she's talking by herself to Miss Minutes, she says, I need to get behind this. I need to figure out who's doing this. In almost like a kind of respect kind of way, but also like she does have some type of integrity for what she does and what her job is. Like, she definitely comes off as one of those people that's like, even if the TVA ended up being evil, she feels like her duty, that the mission statement of the TVA is still so much a part of who she is that it doesn't matter what it stands for, who created it, or anything like that. She wants to know because it would help her worldview, but she's not betraying her principles, because obviously if that mattered to her at all, this revelation that all of this was a lie, she would have just stopped doing what she's doing. But no, she's still following protocol, she's still following the rules, she's still adhering to the life she's been leading up to this point. So I don't know if she actually has any more knowledge than what she's letting on. Now, obviously, we know she's lied to Sylvie. We know she's played loose with the truth with B-15. But I think that that's to save face and to not look weak and out of control. And I think that on the inside, she's trying to figure this out. So while I don't think she knows who's behind the scenes, but I do think she wants to know, and maybe even knowing would help her. Like, who's behind the scenes might have her want to join their cause or figure out how to help them. I feel like she would try to make herself an ally to that person because of her loyalty to her duty, her position. Casey, that would be a Ralph Boner thing to me. Maybe not exactly to that, but just having him be like this character that's made 2 appearances, while funny and while memorable. I don't know. That would be a huge letdown. Dr. Doom would be awesome, but like you said, that's down the road, guys. I think we're really early to get to Doom, and while that might be a castle that looks like it could even be just a pruned timeline trophy. Much like Kang would take trophies from the timeline to instill in his Chronopolis, it could just be it could in fact be Doom's castle, but I don't think the person inhabiting it is going to be Dr. Doom. But we'll see. I still think that everything with the themes of the show, the nature of the show, the direction of the show being all about Loki, who Loki is, about coming to terms with his flaws, with accepting his, pros, what is good about him, accepting all sides of himself. It's about self-acceptance, about self-realization, about self-love. At the end of it, I think it would make the most sense narratively from what we've seen, and with this being a show and with the MC in general tackling people that might not have the amount of knowledge that we have, it's got to be somebody that's not just going to be like, ooh, like if we go and like it's Kang all along, this mainstream viewer is going to be like, who the fuck is that? There's been no setup for that whatsoever. At least with Agatha, we have known her in each episode building up to him. She's been a part of the cast, so it only makes sense. That's a way you can play into that. And then the reveal comes from having experienced her in the narrative up to this point. So for Kang, I don't think that makes sense. But for me, I feel like having Loki, again, all about conquering oneself and accepting oneself all at the same time, it would make the most sense if some variant, whether it be classic Loki or a Loki variant that we've never seen before, the original Loki from the MCU timeline, who knows? Who knows what it could be? I just do think that a Loki variant is going to be where this is going to end. And I know that's, for some people, that's definitely going to be a little bit of a letdown because we want these greater connections to the comics and stuff like that and the clues to add up to something. But I do think it's going to be a Loki variant of some kind to fit in with that theme. And I feel like, at least as part of the narrative, it would make the most sense for Loki to finally step out of his own shadow by conquering the worst parts of himself. While he's been spending this entire season trying to better himself, better understand himself, and love himself, and kind of be confident in who he is, which has kind of been his entire shtick, is to not be confident. Like he said, his whole persona of power, his whole manipulation, the mischief, everything that he causes, all to feign power over the weak. It is an illusion, as he says. And this will be him finally accepting the things that he can do, seeing his potential and actually living into it. And the only way to get past that is to finally defeat and confront the worst parts of his nature, the version of Loki that would maybe never change, like the version of Loki that took his ambitions to the extreme, never loved, never had attachments, never gave in to his feelings or anything like that, and became this controlling, conniving thing that just needs the universe to operate the way that he wants it to. You know, letting go of that control, that illusion, and breaking that and overcoming it will be how our Loki comes through it all. But again, that's just a theory. Like, it could go any one of these directions, and as long as it's done well, I'm not going to be upset as long as it's not a Ralph Boner moment. That's the only thing in WandaVision that really still doesn't set that well for me, because I felt like that was a really cheap shot to do all that build up for just a joke. But it's whatever. It's whatever at this point. I'm not going to linger on that, but I feel like this show is going to be, if it's Mobius, make it make sense. I can live with that. I can live with all of these being the case. If the reveal comes through, maybe Casey would be a push for me to accept it. They've got to really swing hard for me to be like, all right, it was Casey all along. Miss Minutes, you could twist it. It just depends on how it lands. I just don't think that would be very fulfilling, because that character's really just kind of been in the background and cutesy and whatever. It's just like, if they were the big bad in the end, I think that would be a little goofy and take away from the stakes a little bit. But my money is either it's all Renslayer in the end, Kang, or a Loki. And my eggs are all going on a Loki. So that's it, guys. This is our final day to really talk about this stuff before we get the reveal later tonight. I hope you like this little peek, this discussion. And if you did, subscribe, because we're going to be following Loki later tonight. So I'd love to see you there so we can see this whole thing come to a conclusion and see how we all feel about it by the end of it all. But guys, sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below so we can carry on the conversation after the video, or you can come join our Discord and talk about this as well. Links to that and all my socials are in the description of this video. Huge shout out to our channel legends, Mandy Scher, Ryan, Karen, and Jason Coleman. Thank you guys so much, as always, with your support. But guys, home stretch, final episode tonight. It's gonna be crazy. Can't wait. But guys, hope you enjoyed this. I hope you stick around, and I'll see you guys tonight for Loki. And if not, I'll see you guys next time when What If kicks back up. Anyway, guys, take care.